Depression and Etsy laid the groundwork for the origin story of today's must-know photographer. Dana Scruggs was born and raised in Chicago, and she was working there as a real estate agent when she started suffering from severe depression. And she couldn't leave her apartment, which meant that she couldn't go out and earn an income. And she realized she had all these vintage clothes and furniture around her apartment, and she decided to start selling them in order to pay rent. That meant she had to take photos to post on her Etsy listings. Well, she found that she really enjoyed photography and had a lot of fun with it, so she asked her mom to borrow money to buy a camera from Best Buy on a Black Friday sale. So she started finding unsigned models online to take their photos in her clothing, and then she provided photos for the models to use on their websites. Well, then modeling agencies started asking her to shoot for them, and that's when she started to realize that she could really make a career out of this. So within a year, she moved to New York City to pursue photography full-time. Now, she had to work other jobs, but she was always shooting every chance that she got. At one point, she said she was working from 9 a.m. to midnight almost every day, and just whenever she had a free morning or free afternoon, she would book a photo shoot. She was determined to find work as a professional photographer. She knew she had the talent and the ability, so she was scouring LinkedIn to find editors and creative directors, emailing them, sharing her work, asking for portfolio reviews, which she started getting at major publications. But when they looked at her work, it was all self-assigned. She hadn't been working for publications, and so it's hard to get work for publications when you haven't worked for publications. So what she decided to do was to make her own magazine. She called it Scruggs Magazine. She made one issue so she would have printed work to show. Now, in the time that she'd been photographing in New York, she realized that she was primarily interested in photographing black men, so that's what she decided to focus on for her magazine. She said, quote, "Adonis Basso was the first model I photographed for the magazine. The work that we created together was the strongest that I'd ever made and has informed all of my subsequent work." Scruggs finally got her big break in 2018 when she was hired to photograph sprinter Tori Bowie for the body issue of ESPN, the magazine. She became the first black woman to photograph for this series in its 10-year history. And that led to later that year an even bigger photo shoot and an even bigger milestone. She became the first black photographer to photograph the cover of Rolling Stone in its 50-year history when she photographed Travis Scott for the January 2019 issue. Now, afterwards, she faced a lot of racist criticism, saying that she only got the covers for PR for Rolling Stone. And that's not true. They didn't even know that she would be the first until after the shoot was already done. And because of these firsts that she's celebrated and the backlash that she's received from people unjustly, she's working to be someone who brings up other black people in the industry. She said, "Just because a small number of black photographers have become more visibly successful doesn't mean that diversity in hiring is no longer an issue. As a matter of fact, 9 times out of 10, if I didn't hire black assistants or suggest black stylists and makeup artists, then I would be the only black person on most of my sets. I'm not going to be a monolith in this industry. I'm bringing other black people up with me." And now, in 2023, in addition to being a sought-after editorial photographer, she is in museums. This self-portrait, taken during the quarantine in 2020, was acquired by the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston in 2021 and is now prominently on display. Now you know Dana Scruggs.